Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into my official college football week number 4 reaction to all of the ranked matchups. We'll begin on the Friday night game, ranked v. ranked, Illinois beating Nebraska. A lot of people disappointed in Nebraska at home. That's certainly a game you have to win against the Illini. Credit to Illinois. They're going to be a top 20 team, though. That's a crazy good win on the road at Nebraska. Nebraska's still a very young team that's building. Dylan Raiola, the true freshman, they should still, I would say, at least win 8, probably 9 games. They're going to lose to Ohio State, so that's another loss, but they've got a manageable schedule. Nebraska can still have a very good year, and again, it is Dylan Raiola's first year. He's getting experience. They're going to be really good the next 2 years. Illinois, 4-0, probably a top 20 team. Overtime win. Nebraska probably should have won this game, but still give credit to the Fighting Illini. Moving on to the Saturday games. Texas beats UL Monroe. I predicted the final score 52-3. It was 51-3, and it's not because they missed an extra point. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I almost predicted this game perfectly, but they missed an extra point. That was not it. They got a safety. Texas got a safety. That's how they got to 51. It wasn't like they scored a bunch of touchdowns and then missed an extra point. But it was actually, you know what? This thing happens where it doesn't have all the leaders. There we go. Now we've got all the leaders. I mean, Arch Manning, 15-29. I didn't watch the game. But 15-29 against UL Monroe in terms of completion percentage, not the best. But Texas, the number 1 team right now, very easy win for them. You've got Ohio State beating Marshall. Really, the Buckeyes should have covered this spread. Marshall had a touchdown with 5 seconds left before the half, but this was a domination by Ohio State. They averaged 10 yards per play. Quinshawn Judkins, he might be the best running back in college football. I think he's like top 2, top 3. Trevion Henderson looks amazing as well. Ohio State is just ridiculously talented. The only big issue for Ohio State, really the lack of pass rush. Although this game was very weird, Marshall had run 47 plays in the first half. They had no big plays, but they would always get these, 4 or 5 yard gains. They were 4 of 4 on third down to start the game. It was just fully ball control. Ohio State is just so talented. It's not even funny. So Ohio State easily beats Marshall. They ended up not covering the spread, though. Late in that game, they put in Devin Brown. They weren't able to score another touchdown. They end up winning 49-14. But the only big issue for Ohio State, the lack of pass rush in that one. You've got Ole Miss beating Georgia Southern. So Ole Miss, this is they've had a very easy. So is Ohio State. Ohio State's had an easy non-conference, but Ole Miss, it has been cupcake after cupcake. Georgia Southern, 52-13. Jackson Dart, he's in the Heisman conversation. Right now, you would say 382, 4 touchdowns. What has he got, 16 touchdowns now on the year in 4 games? And yeah, another cover. So right now, Ole Miss is 4-0 against the spread. Very easy win there. Tennessee wins 25-15. Kind of a weird game. Jackson Arnold, my goodness, another 5-star QB bust. We're seeing a lot of them. And he got benched. He's probably not going to be starting next week. We wouldn't expect. Oklahoma, tough loss. I think we all knew Tennessee was going to win and cover this game, and they did. They were 7.5-point favorites, and they very easily covered. They were up by 25-9, just a weird score. And then Ole Miss scored a really late touchdown, but it wasn't a great offensive performance for Tennessee. I think that's a very good sign. It shows they can win a number of ways. Oklahoma, we knew their offense was suspect coming into it, but Tennessee still has to play well. They have to show up on the road, and they did just that. Tennessee, they're looking like a top 5 team right now. You've got Missouri beating Vanderbilt in overtime. I said Missouri was way overranked at number 7. They're going to be dropping at least 2 or 3 spots. You can't go to overtime with Vandy. They end up getting the win. Their running back, Noel, 24 carries for 199. Luther Burden goes for 76 yards and 2 touchdowns. Brady Cook, 226 and 2 touchdowns. Not a great performance by Missouri. Didn't cover the spread, but they are still undefeated. Miami destroys South Florida. Miami might be a top 5 team in college football right now. South Florida's not great, but still, that was a much more impressive effort than what Alabama did against South Florida. And I know Alabama pulled away late, and I understand that this was a close game in the first half, but mid-third quarter, we knew this was going to be a blowout. And Cam Ward, another game, 400 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. His numbers are just ridiculous. And he's going to be probably top 2, top 3 in terms of Heisman right now. Miami is looking like a top 5 team. I think they're minimum going to move up to number 7 because Missouri, there's no way they stay there. There's no way they pass Tennessee because Tennessee just beat Oklahoma on the road. But Miami will move up to number 7. You do have Penn State beating Kent State. They were 49.5-point favorites. They scored a very late touchdown to cover the spread. They won 56-0. Kent State is the worst team in FBS. Doesn't surprise me that they won this game very easily. Pretty nice performance by Penn State coming off the bye, but it's against, I predicted this game 69-0. So they underperformed that by 13 points. Michigan beats USC. Let me tell you, I think USC lost this game in the first half. Lincoln Riley did not have his team ready to play. They're the more talented team. There was no excuse for them to lose this game, and they just looked really, really slow to start this game. Obviously, they still should have won it. Michigan had a drive with like 2 minutes left or 3 minutes left. Mullings breaking off that run, breaking the he broke a tackle that might have won Michigan the game because Michigan could not throw. They legitimately could not throw. Miller Moss, it was to be honest, USC's got to find something with that offensive line. Michigan's D-line, the pressure that they got. Miller Moss, 51 pass attempts, less than 300 yards. That's not great. Mullings is really good, though. 259, 2 touchdowns. Zachariah Branch goes for 98 receiving yards, but USC should have won this game. They lost this game in the first half. They were not ready to play. They looked shell-shocked. Michigan could not throw the football, but this game is a huge win for Michigan. I still don't see them doing anything because they can't throw now. It's like you either have Davis Warren and he'll turn the ball over a bunch, or you just can't throw. And we saw in the second half with Michigan, they had like 4 straight 3-and-outs. I think USC outgained them by like 150 total yards in this game. And if you're USC, you have to win that game on the road. It's a tough environment, but Michigan could not throw. And you have to take advantage of that. And they didn't. They ended up losing. It looked like they were going to win. Michigan had a drive at the end of the game based around running with like 3 minutes left because they couldn't throw with Alex Orji. But not a bad loss for USC, and Michigan stays in the playoff picture with that win. Utah beats Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, a really bad performance. Cam Rising was not playing in this game. And, I don't know what happened to Ollie Gordon. It's been a horrible year for him. And Oklahoma State, that is a brutal loss in the Big 12. You have to win that game at home against a backup QB. They did not do it. They've had Oklahoma State's had some problems recently. They almost lost to Arkansas. They probably should have lost to Arkansas. So now they're sitting at 3-1. BYU crushes Kansas State 38-9. That was the 10:30 game. BYU, congratulations. You're going to be ranked. You're probably going to be inside the top 22 or 23 with that win there. BYU was like 3-point under, or weren't they like 5-point underdogs? They end up winning that game by 29 points. You do have LSU beating UCLA. I thought this was going to be a bigger blowout. LSU, I guess, was fine. They ended up not covering the spread. They were 20-point favorites. They win by 17. Nussmeier looked good, though. 352, 3 touchdowns. We'll see with LSU. They're sitting at 3-1. They've got South Alabama. South Alabama is actually a pretty good team if you look at FPI, but they've got South Alabama next week. Notre Dame beats Miami of Ohio 28-3. Riley Leonard, he really struggles throwing the ball, but running it. 143, 2 touchdowns. The big problem here for Notre Dame is that Northern Illinois lost. And I'm going to talk about that game, but I think Notre Dame needs to go 11-1. They pretty much have to. They cannot lose another game or they will not make the playoff. Louisville beats Georgia Tech 31-19. Very disappointing here. I did have Georgia Tech upsetting Louisville as 10-point underdogs. Georgia Tech did outgain Louisville by about 100 yards, but they still lost by 12 points. What are you going to do? You get the turnovers as a problem. You've got Iowa State crushing Arkansas State. That's a pretty impressive win because it wasn't like Iowa State was like 40-point favorites or anything like that, but that was a very easy win for Iowa State. Clemson destroys NC State. Clemson looks so good. NC State scored a bunch of garbage time points in this game. It was not nearly as close. At one point, it was 52-7. Clemson is really coming on strong. They should be like a top 15 team right now. Buffalo beats Northern Illinois. And I know people are like, well, that's hilarious. To be honest, Northern Illinois should have won this game. They outgained Buffalo by like 250 yards, and they still lost. They're the better team than Buffalo, but they choked this game. They lost in overtime. Northern Illinois, they finally get ranked in the first matchup. They lose outright. And then Texas A&M barely beats Bowling Green. Texas A&M cannot be ranked after this. Come on. They're 3-1, but Bowling Green is a good team. Bowling Green almost beat Penn State on the road and Texas A&M. It would have been cool if they would have won one of those games, but still pretty good performances. Looking at the ESPN FPI, you do have Texas still sitting at number 1. You've got Bama at number 2. They're coming off a bye. Ohio State still at number 3. Georgia moves up a spot. Tennessee moves down a spot because I guess their offense didn't play nearly as well, as predicted. So, even though they beat Oklahoma, they do move down. Ole Miss is still at number 6. Miami moves up 1 spot to number 7. Penn State moves up 1 spot. Notre Dame is down 2 spots. mainly because they only scored 28 points against Miami of Ohio, and also Northern Illinois lost, which hurts their overall strength considering they lost to Northern Illinois. Oregon coming off a bye, they just move up a spot. Louisville up 2 spots to number 11. Louisville. Are they going to possibly be in the ACC championship game? You do have USC still at number 12, even after that loss, because it was a close loss and they outgained Michigan by like 100 yards. Missouri down 3 spots for that close win against Vandy. Clemson is up to number 14. Indiana is up to number 15. They crushed Charlotte. It was a close game in the first half, but Indiana, how about UCF and Indiana? Both, I mean, Indiana's going to be ranked. I would expect them to be ranked. Oklahoma down 3 spots. A&M down 3 spots. A&M should not be inside the top 25. LSU up 3 spots. Michigan moves up a spot after beating USC. Oklahoma State is down a spot. Utah moves up 2 spots. Arkansas up 6 spots. Did Arkansas have a bye or oh no, they played Auburn. They beat Auburn. You do have Iowa up 8 spots. Iowa with a very nice performance on the road at Minnesota. They're going to be facing Ohio State here in a few weeks. How about Iowa State up 19 spots for bludgeoning Arkansas State? SMU, they win a shootout game, and they scored like 70 points or 60 points, something like that. Boise State beats Portland State. We'll see if Boise State is ranked. Genty, the running back, 127 yards in the first half, didn't play in the second half. Maryland, I'm surprised they're a top 30 team right now. South Carolina up 4 spots. They crushed Akron. Washington beat what did they beat? Northwestern 25-4. Boston College down 8 spots. They won against Michigan State, but they didn't play very well. Kansas State moves down 15 spots. Pittsburgh moves up 22 spots. Wait, who did Pittsburgh? Youngstown State, because they scored 73 points. See, that's the problem with these FPI things. They factor in those games way too much. There is zero way Pittsburgh should be moving up 22 spots because they scored 73 against an FCS school. It's just ridiculous. Like BYU moving up 19 spots, I can understand because that's an unbelievable performance against Kansas State. Florida up 13 spots. Wow. Florida with a resurgence. Washington State, they're 4-0 now, but they're down 8 spots. Oh, yeah, they had that crazy Friday night game. I remember that. TCU down 13 spots. They got crushed by SMU. Rutgers is sitting at 3-0, and they've got a relatively easy schedule. Rutgers might be able to go 9-3. Cincinnati up 19 spots. They crushed Houston. They're sitting at 3-1. Florida State down 11 spots after beating Cal because it's still adjusting to how bad they are. Colorado, they barely beat Baylor. They got very lucky. Minnesota down 14 spots. James Madison in that crazy game against North Carolina where they scored 53 points in the first half. South Alabama up to number 61 overall. They're like the best team in the Sun Belt. South Alabama is. They're really good. They've been blowing everyone out. Boy, Memphis had a huge letdown. Memphis got crushed. I think they lost to like Navy. They allowed like 50 points or something. Just a horrible performance. But these are pretty much all. South Florida down 16 spots. They got crushed. UConn up. They had a crazy blowout win. Navy, they crushed Memphis. And that's pretty much it when it comes to these updates. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.